All right, here we are.
All right, Jeff. It's another fun episode of Soccer Chat, and we have a really important thing we need to do here to get started. It's going to be time for another Soccer Chat. You make the call.
All right.
So we got a little clip here, and you tell me how you think a League One referee would call this.
Yes.
Wow.
It's great.
I don't. Sometimes something about that to me just screams you're 8 years old, but the fact it's by a multi-million-dollar professional kind of brings its own level of something different.
Yeah. So what do you see there? How do you think the League One referee makes that call?
It depends on the ref, and because their decisions kind of go to and fro depending on the mood they're in. But if it's Richmond, they're totally going to get the call.
So I agree that this is situational.
Mhm.
If it's the sort of play where there's not much of an effect, then I think the referee goes hard and gives the red card, throws him out for throwing intentionally. And if there's a lot on the line, say the game-winning run on third base, then any League One referee, of course, would call it a strike.
Soccer Chat with two T's, because we're going to chat about soccer, but we're also in Chattanooga, so it's like a play on words. And Chattanooga is a soccer city.
Wow,
welcome to Soccer Chat, Season 4, episode. Who cares?
Yeah, we've already lost count.
We are here.
We are back.
It's Conspiracy Alex tonight, and Wolfman Jeff. Adam is not here. He said he had a concert that he had to attend. He does have a daughter that's in band, so that may be where he is. But I like to think that he is at a family singing competition, and the Bruce family is about to win a huge prize and go on the road.
Well, I hope they make it out of Austria in time, because things are pressure.
So, Jeff, we had an exciting weekend with the Red
Yes.
Wolves, the only team in League One to notch a victory. Conspiracy Alex today, because we had fantastic goals by Ray Ortiz and Aaron Lombardi nominated for Goal of the Week. Neither of them were able to secure that win because, of course, the Red Wolves fans were divided. Both were fantastic goals.
Mm-hmm.
The only player from the Red Wolves to make Team of the Week, Aaron Lombardi. Congrats to him. Well deserved. Had a great game. But when you're the only team in the league that wins a game, it's kind of puzzling to look at Team of the Week and see only one of your players when you know that certain greenish hued teams or bird themed teams were the only team to win, they'd probably have 6 guys in the Team of the Week. And so I'm feeling very conspiratorial. This is very suspect for me.
Yeah, I think that was the Team of the Week. I was suspecting more, even though he came off the bench. Ray's goal was phenomenal, and I think also Espana, who was not nominated for Goal of the Week, also just did a fantastic performance. So there's a couple on there I thought could have been on there. I do think very good for Aaron Lombardi. He's been fantastic, and I'm glad to see him on the reward. But yeah, it was not as fluffy as I would like most of my teams.
So yeah, Josue Espana is a good call out. He had a fantastic game. Played all of it. Right? I'm trying to think. Maybe he might have been subbed off towards the very end, but he was definitely there. Ray Ortiz, it's not like he came in for 10 minutes off the bench. He came in the 55th minute and completely turned around the momentum of the game. There's nothing I've ever seen with Team of the Week that says there's a minutes requirement. But
Right.
even again, you talk about Rafa Menzigen, who hit the crossbar on his own right. Was involved in at least one, if not two, of the goals, amazing goals that got scored for the Red Wolves. So yeah, so very disappointing, very sus, as the kids say, and yeah, there's no
Both
telling
of
how
the
far it goes. Tinfoil hats off camera, but it's in the
so
room.
I've got the stats, brother. And Espana and Rafa both came out on the 83rd minute. They were
Okay,
replaced by Pedro Hernandez and David Teixeira, and they came in and were solid subs. But I mean, it was 83rd minute, so most of the work
right.
was already done. Actually, no, three of them came off. It looks like that was also when Espinoza came out too. And who was
So
the third that came in? Oh, Cardona. So that was the big swapperoo. But I think the big change was, and I think he did a really good game. So I don't want to point to anything with Brian Bement coming off, because I think he's done very good for us starting off. But bringing Ray in brought an energy. I think kind of changed it. It might be jumping ahead, but Alex, to me, that seemed like a game of two very different halves. The first
yeah,
half,
so yeah, the first half was kind of sad Wolves. They looked very lackluster, didn't have a lot of energy. There was some controversy that possibly the goal was offside. And I don't know. There wasn't really a great camera angle to be able to tell for sure that the person was offside on the lead up to North Carolina's goal. Put them ahead 1-0 going into the half. And to me, the biggest thing is it just felt like maybe they were a little road weary. They had played a game. They had to hop on a bus, on the Monday and get up to Louisville. They had to then ride home from Louisville, pick up a few extra guys. We've got confirmation now that all of our boys are in town, so that's exciting. But they picked up some of them, and then they had to make the trip out. Pretty long drive. I think 8-9 hours to get to Cary, North Carolina, where they are. So it just felt a little bit like they were road weary in that first half, and I was a little worried about what was going to happen in that second half.
yeah, it was one of those. It felt like usually it's not the strongest start, and I often have noticed that Coach Jimmy likes to. It's like the NOS or the NOS thing in those Fast and Furious films, where they likes to crank that up at the end, but it needed a little bit more. They were low on go-go juice from the go, but I also want to say that North Carolina felt comfortable at home. It was a noticeable improvement, which I think we commented in our preview that this was not going to be last year's North Carolina. They had made some changes. They seem to have this North Carolina team seems to have more of a plan than last year. Personally, I don't know why they had Pulisic as the goalkeeper when they had Holiday. I understand he's alone, and when you have a loan, you have to play them so much. But I think that I'd say that Holiday is a superior keeper. Having said that, I think they had a pretty decent side for North Carolina. And once North Carolina got that goal in the first half, it just from that until the second half, it didn't feel like we were threatening much. It took the gas out of us. But the substitutions that Coach did, well, even before the substitutions, at the beginning of the second half, that Coach Jimmy had conversations with them that were maybe not as warm and fuzzy. But more importantly, our team had a plan coming back in. And then they came back how they played their previous two games, which was full of attack, and which has been, I think, the hallmark so far of the Red Wolves this year is they are going to press the whole game, and they're going to, there isn't an opening, they're going to make an opening. And it's not just reliant on getting the wingers just to get on with the cross. They're going to come from many angles. I also agree with the comment that you made earlier that Rafa again seemed really close to scoring, and I think that Brian Bement is also really close to getting on the score sheet. So that's exciting. Honestly, if I would have picked, I'm surprised Ray didn't start. But when Ray came off the bench, and it's not a knock on Brian, it's just what Ray Ortiz brings to the side is he's very difficult for another team to handle. because he's kind of like Markey, and he's got the speed, not just the quickness, but he's got that first step like a point guard.
Yes.
And he doesn't give away where he's going. And so his body, and he's been working on this. You could tell his body language does not reveal the direction he's going to go. So rather than do the tricks and stuff that Markey did, Ray is a little more tactically. And I got to say, this year's Red Wolves have done fantastic with paying attention with where they are on the pitch. We are getting so fewer calls for offsides. And I think that's something that they have been deliberately working on.
So we talked last week about executing the Jimmy Obleda system, knowing that more chances are coming, being willing to pull that trigger and take a chance, put something on goal, and who knows what's going to happen. And when you look at all 3 goals, Ray Ortiz makes a move outside the box, sees a window, and puts some incredible bend on a ball into the far corner where, with a player in front of him, he could have very easily said, "Oh, I'm not open yet," and taken another couple touches to the center of the park. How many times have we seen those 2 extra touches towards the center and the ball, someone steps in and takes the ball away? But instead, he lets it go and scores what should have been the goal of the week, if not for League One conspiracy, League One so rigged.
It's one of the best goals I've seen in the league since we started.
Oh, yes. Keeper at full stretch has absolutely no chance to get to it. And you think, oh, it's just one of those ones that goes flying over. But no, it was in the goal, and that was really exciting. But then you go to Josue España. A cross comes in. It gets kind of cleared out. Josue España gets one touch to get that ball down at his feet, and he is nailing it. And it takes a deflection. So that wrong foot's the keeper. His goal takes a deflection, but that's exactly what we're talking about. You take that opportunity, you get it towards goal, and you don't know. It deflects off someone. The keeper has to dive and leaves a rebound for someone to tap in. You've got to take those opportunities, and Josue España gets rewarded with a goal for that. And then the final one, Aaron Lombardi, another cross, stuff gets put up in the air, and he doesn't try to settle a ball. He's not getting there and trying to chest it and dribble it into the goal or anything like that, like you may have seen sometimes. Plenty of times you see someone go for a volley like that and they side foot it. They hook it wide of the goal. They kick it straight up in the air. They whiff and it bounces. But he hit it flush, and the keeper can do nothing about it. And that's our 3rd goal. And so if all the Red Wolves that are watching, I see two of you guys are watching, get it through the rest of the team. When you guys take these opportunities, you get rewarded. And the Jimmy Obleda, there were 2-3 other chances in that half. Jimmy Obleda, if you play in his system, you will have the chances. Take them. Don't be afraid. Don't try to make it perfect, and you'll get rewarded.
It'll be interesting to see if Lombardi can get another goal like that. I don't know how much of that was his skill, which a lot of it is, but there's a bit of luck with that, and it's got to feel good. That Ray goal, I am still that, because it's just precision, but the bend on that thing was just phenomenal. And I really think that, unfortunately for Josue, his fantastic goal is being overshadowed because he's in the middle of a goal bonanza sandwich. And so he's the middle part of these 2 amazing goals, and he had a really solid goal there.
Yeah, a big thing for me with Aaron Lombardi was he read the play. Lots of people probably would follow that ball and jump into a collision with one of the other defenders, and maybe you get a side header or whatever. But he saw where the ball was going, and he moved to the spot that he expected them to head it, and was there to be able to pounce on it. So I don't think that's Aaron Lombardi's last goal this season. I think we're going to see a couple of headed goals off of set pieces. We're going to see him come in the box like Jonathan Ricketts used to, and things like that, and score a few more goals for the Red Wolves.
Yeah, when I'm looking at our right back and left back, I got to say Lombardi kind of reminds me more of Ricketts insofar of, he's a left back, but he's very offensively focused. And so I agree. He's going to be getting more goals. I think he's going to get more assists as well.
So now, after reviewing the game here, we're going to move on to our interview segment. We have Jason Longshore of Soccer Down Here joining us. Adam and I recorded this on Tuesday. We're really excited that he's able to join us, kind of catch us up on what's going on with Atlanta United and Nashville, and even talk about the the big Open Cup game that's impacting the region with Atlanta United and CFC. And he gives us some thoughts on how he thinks that Atlanta United's going to do that. So hope you all enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. Returning to give us an MLS update. So Jason, I have YouTube TV. YouTube TV doesn't have the local Fox things, and so even trying to watch on ESPN Plus, all the Atlanta United games are blacked out. This is why I'm completely against streaming and cord cutting and everything. So can you catch me up? What's happened with Atlanta United?
Everybody's getting hurt is what's happened. Getting a few people back today, though. Luis Araujo back into training today, which is a great re-addition to the squad. Joseph Martinez, he had to get a follow-up procedure done on his knee to clean up debris in it. I don't know if it's scar tissue or what, but Darren Eales was on 92.9 The Game in Atlanta today, this afternoon, and said that looks like they could get Joseph back by the end of May, which is a little bit ahead of where I thought it might be. So that's good news. Osvaldo Alonso tore his ACL, likely out for the rest of the year. I don't think the timeline has been fully established for him. Horrible luck. It was a collision in D.C. in that match, and hate it because Alonso has brought a lot of veteran leadership to this side early on. Mateus Hosetu pulled a hamstring, out for 2 to 4 weeks.
Jeez.
Hamstring for Araujo has been a little bit longer than that. It's a hamstring. You never can really tell. So that's a lot of stuff all at once. And Atlanta United goes to Charlotte last weekend, and really even game, really good game. It was a fun game to call. Charlotte wins on an Olympico from the corner that got over Brad Kazan. It was windy in the bowl. Brad mentioned the wind. You had a player right in front of him too. And when I went back to watch, like, that player doesn't, interfere with Kazan, but he's enough of a distraction to where it's just that like split second. And that combined with swirling winds, the ball gets over Brad. He gets a hand to it. It ends up in the back of the net. And that's what decides the game. There were 31 shots in the game, and it's decided on an Olympico. It's just one of those kinds of a days. But the 3 games before that for Atlanta, you had late game heroics, and that's what you almost came to expect in the game in Charlotte. They came back to get a draw against Montreal. They had a late winner against Charlotte the first time around, and they had a late winner in D.C. So right now they're in 4th place in the Eastern Conference. I'm pretty good with that, considering you haven't had Joseph Martinez, Luis Araujo, Thiago Almada, and Marcelino Moreno on the field together at any point. You haven't even had them in a practice session together at any point. So with all that being the case, I'm happy with where Atlanta is. There's still work to do to get better, obviously, but I think this first half of the season's about learning and building, and then going into the second half strong with everybody, hopefully, fingers crossed, healthy.
So let me ask you a question about that
Hang
game
on,
in
Adam.
Charlotte.
You don't happen to know anyone with the local Fox that could maybe get in a room with YouTube TV?
Oh,
We're both Braves
I
fans.
wish it
so
was that
also
simple.
is hurting us.
Yeah, I wish it was that simple. It's now that the Sinclair company owns what used to be the Fox Sports South and Southeast. Now it's Bally's as a title sponsor. Sinclair has been working on their own over-the-top app, and I expected it to be done before baseball season started, and it's not done yet. I don't know what the holdup is, because they're going to do that. They're not as willing to work with all of the different kinds of providers out there, like your YouTube TVs, and there's others. I had to keep Xfinity because of that, because I needed those channels, and I also needed strong internet at home since I'm working and broadcasting from home for the most part. So had to find a way to do it. But I think when they get that app together, I don't know what all the particulars are, but you'll be able to, if teams kind of opt into it, you'll be able to watch the games there. But again, it's another cost.
Yeah. So it's another one Alex is going to have to mute off someone. So let me ask you a question about that Charlotte Atlanta game.
Yeah.
One of the things that was interesting about that game, it was one of the first games that had a lot of eyeballs on it where they didn't have the top bowl open. How different is Bank of America with the top bowl being empty versus Mercedes-Benz where you've got the coverage to kind of block it? How much of a different atmosphere does it create?
I didn't really notice it. I wasn't kind of looking at it. I was so focused on the play on the field because it was really good. I was really engrossed with this match. It was loud. Now, one thing, our broadcast position, we were a little bit towards the left of the screen, a little bit left of center. And I don't know if it's just where we were or just the way the stadium's configured. It was the first time I'd been there. But the PA speakers, there were PA speakers right above us pointing down. So it was very loud in pregame. It was really loud during the game when there wasn't PA speakers going too. So it didn't feel or sound like it was, half full or whatever you want it to be. I think that's the big difference with what the Benz is in that configuration is you were able to plan on that from day one and know like, okay, we don't just want to do tarps like some do or leave the seats empty. How can we make it work differently? And having those straight banners straight up kind of makes it feel like a different venue. Like Mercedes-Benz feels completely different, fully open, and with those banners up. It feels like a different stadium. One thing I think we'll find, though, and I get this with Atlanta, and I think Charlotte will get it too when you have more of the full stadium games. It has a very different atmosphere with the full stadium versus the smaller configuration. And you'd think more people, more noise, more constant noise. It doesn't really work that way in Atlanta because I think when you get the smaller configuration, you're getting mostly season ticket holders who are completely dialed in, who are gung-ho and hardcore with it. When you get the full stadium, you get some people who are there for the first time and maybe don't know all the chants, don't know, the times to really get loud and make noise. And it can get a little weird because of that. Charlotte, now the opener was the opener. So it was a little bit different feel. And watching that, was actually coming back from Colorado. So watched most of that sitting in the airport waiting for our flight to take off from our game in Colorado. It was amazing watching it. I didn't feel at all like it was incomplete on Sunday. It was a great atmosphere. And Charlotte's going to be a soccer city to pay attention to for sure. I really like everything they're doing off the field. I love what Miguel Angel Ramirez is doing on the field as a coach. I think he's one of the best in the league. He's getting a lot out of a team that probably isn't exactly what he would like. I think he wants to play a 4-3-3. Can't really do that with what he's got to work with right now.
Yeah.
But he's got 3 wins out of a 4-4-2 diamond. And I don't think he ever played that before he came to Charlotte. He's getting the job done with what he's got.
So one of the interesting things about Atlanta was a lot of people like to give them credit for soccer in the South in general. And when we turn towards and look at the Open Cup, you've got a lot of Southern teams still very, very strongly in there. Unfortunately, our Red Bulls are not one of them as we played the best team in USL Championship and played them well.
Draw. Really, the Red Wolves played really well. I got to see a lot of that. I was really impressed. That game could have went either way for sure.
Yeah, so I don't feel like
those fans holding the flag, huh? They were pretty awesome.
It may have been Alex.
Pretty cool. I like those guys.
Yeah. What I was going to say though is you've got Atlanta playing CFC, you've got Greenville and Charlotte playing in Greenville, which is great. You've got Birmingham involved. When you look at those matches, which one do you expect to have the most likely of an upset? Is my first question, and then after that, I do want to ask you directly about that CFC Atlanta game.
I think the one that has the most likelihood for an upset is because Tormenta over Birmingham would be considered an upset. I thought Tormenta was by far the better team against Charleston, and Charleston's not as good as Birmingham in terms of USL Championship level. I think Charleston, it's going to take Connor Casey some time to get them where he wants to get them. He wants them to be a team along the lines of a Philadelphia or New York Red Bulls that is very press oriented. He's got to overturn that roster a little bit more. But Birmingham's really good. Tormenta is not a typical USL League One team this year. I could see them going in and pulling the upset. I could see Greenville making life really difficult for Charlotte. I could absolutely see that. I want to see how seriously Miguel Angel Ramirez takes this tournament, because he doesn't have a very deep roster, and he doesn't have a second team to work with either. So he can't bring some guys up to give them some time. That could be a tricky one for him. Atlanta, Chattanooga FC. I'm glad we get that down here. Even it can be a fun trip up there. We were there in 2017 in preseason, and it was probably about half Atlanta United fans. I would expect the same if it had been that case here. I feel like Atlanta's in a good spot with that. I don't know if CFC is as good as they've been in some previous years. I love their coach, though. Rod Underwood's a former Atlanta soccer guy. I've known Rod for a long time. One of the best coaches out there. That was a great hire. But I think Atlanta should be able to handle that game. Now, you do have a bunch of injuries, and you're probably going to need to rest some people, but they should have the depth to handle that.
And so that's what I wonder about, though, because I watched the Atlanta United 2 versus Detroit City game, and it wasn't pretty for Atlanta United 2. And so then I start wondering, does Atlanta United really even have that many to pull from?
You do. I think what you're looking at, if you're going with a true second team, I don't think they do, by the way. Gonzalo Pineda said day one of preseason he wants to win the Open Cup. And you got to remember, coming from Seattle, you're coming from a pedigree of a team that really takes the Open Cup seriously out of the MLS. So I think he will do the same here. I really do. So will he rotate some? Yeah, possibly. Like, does Jackson Conway start up top in place of Ronaldo Cisneros or Dom Dwyer? I could see that. Does a Robbie Mertz or an Aiden McFadden from Atlanta United 2 get the call up for that? Possibly. Noah Cobb, who's been great for Atlanta United 2 at 16 years old. He'll be a homegrown on the MLS roster next year. Could he get that game? Yeah, because he played the whole preseason with the first team. But I think you'll see the bulk of the first team, and I think you'll see guys like Almada, Moreno, Araujo, maybe Emerson Hyndman by that point might be able to play a role. He's getting close. I think you'll see some of the defense. Ronald Hernandez could get an opportunity to play, a Venezuelan national team player. So you've got a lot of depth that is first team oriented, not with the second team, that I think will play a role. But I don't think it'll purely be second choice. I think it'll be kind of a mix of teams. And, I really look at two guys that I feel like are going to be big in that game, potentially. Still a long way to go till we get there. Noah Cobb and Caleb Wiley. Caleb Wiley's got a goal in MLS. He's 17, played extensively for the Twos the last 2 years. But Wiley's somebody that has gotten into 3 or 4 games with Atlanta United now. He's got a goal in his debut. I thought he played well. Could have had an equalizer late against Charlotte. He might get the start at left back, as he's played mostly on the wing off the bench so far. So I think it'll be guys who have been getting time, but maybe not starting time. Gotcha. You know what I mean? I think it'll be a little bit of a mix.
So talking about MLS teams in the Open Cup and how serious they take it, as you kind of look around the league, how many teams do you think are really taking it seriously, saying this is something we want to win? I'm thinking, of course, of my Timbers that I love. So much better in tournaments, it seems, than they are through the season, where they have so many peaks and valleys. Are they a team who, when they enter in the next round, that's going to take it seriously, try to put out some of the best players and maybe just slight rotations and try to go for that win and the CCL spot that's on the line for it?
Yeah, I could easily see that with Portland. They are a great tournament team. Giovanni Savarese is one of the best tournament kind of managers that you have around MLS. We're not going to see everybody in this round. There's going to be 8 teams that come in later. Some of those, it might be a little complicated, like especially NYC and Seattle, for example, with long CONCACAF runs. Do they have to really get deep into the rotation for an Open Cup squad? Possibly. I look at kind of the middle and some teams that I think maybe are playoff teams, but not looking at a great likelihood of making a run to MLS Cup. but could make noise here. Chicago feels like a team like that that's really good defensively. That can be a problem in an Open Cup situation. I think Dallas is a team with their attack I really like, and I think they could be a team that makes some noise and prioritizes this. I look beyond that, and Nashville feels like a team that would be a good fit in an Open Cup tournament kind of format, and we haven't seen them in it before.
Yeah.
So Gary Smith, I'm kind of like, all right, he's got that defensive side. They've got a goalkeeper in Joe Willis who can ruin your day. They've got match winners in Hani Mukhtar and Randall Leal. How seriously does he take it, or does he prioritize the regular season? And they've been on the road every game in the regular season so far because new stadium's not ready yet. So when they come in, will they be kind of gassed at that point, like after all the road games? But I could see them as a tournament team. Chicago is one that I keep coming back to, and they've taken the Open Cup really seriously throughout their history, and they're kind of trying to get back to a little bit of that history. I could see them really loading up in these Open Cup games and trying to progress and make a deep run.
So you mentioned Nashville. Of course, they've got 2 games before they have their big home opener against Philadelphia. From our source that has season tickets, that stadium has, it was minutes before it was sold out for that game. What have you seen from them so far, and how do you see as they start to be able to get some home games? How are they going to do over in the Western Conference?
I thought they were a contender to win the West coming into the season, and to be in 7th, to be in a playoff spot, to have 10 points all on the road in your first 6 is really impressive. I was a little worried, though, after they got the win in game 1, and then it kind of wobbled a little bit. But they've won 3 of their last 4, or they've won their last 2, back-to-back on the road. And that's a good place to be. They're not scoring a ton, which I expect them to score more. I'm a little surprised by that. But defensively, you're giving up a goal a game. I think they're a team that when they get those home games and stack up even more points, I look at LAFC, I look at LA Galaxy. I think Nashville's right there with them. I really do. I think Seattle will definitely make noise in the Western Conference. Those are the 4 that I keep coming back to, and Nashville has as good of a chance as anybody to win the West in the regular season.
Go ahead.
So who's surprised you and who's kind of disappointed you? It's early in the season, but most of them have had 6-7 games.
Yeah, we went through this on Soccer Down Here today to kind of talk about who is maybe out of place where they are in the table and who's about where you would expect them to be. Obviously, in the table, New England has been the biggest disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
I really am not all that worried about them, though, because of a guy like Bruce Arena at the helm, because of the veterans they have, because of the year they had last year. I think they'll get it right, but 12 goals conceded in 6 is a little shocking for this group. And just the way some of these have gone, the late loss to Real Salt Lake in the snow, the horrible CONCACAF loss on the road to blow a 3-0 lead, that stuff takes a lot out of you. Like the Charlotte loss coming off of that, I kind of expected. The Red Bulls loss, a little fluky. The loss in Miami this weekend, that didn't feel like it should have happened. So I'm watching. I'm not worried yet, but I'm watching them closely. New York City, I think it's CONCACAF related. Seattle, where they are in the table, I think it's CONCACAF related. Montreal, where they are in the table, I think it's CONCACAF related. Now that they've been out, they're unbeaten in their last 3. I think Montreal's a really good team. The surprises are more on the other end. Real Salt Lake doing what they've done and continuing on the run they had at the end of last season under Pablo Mastroeni. I didn't think they'd be at this stage right now, being the 4th best team overall in the table. Austin, I didn't see this. I thought they would struggle. They didn't really add a whole lot. And Josh Wolf, I thought might be under a little bit of pressure. They're killing it right now with 14 goals in 6 games. Dallas is what I expected them to be. I had high hopes for Dallas, so I'm not shocked by that. I'm not shocked by the Red Bulls being as good as they've been. I'm surprised at Charlotte. I thought they would struggle more early on. Miguel Angel Ramirez has done an amazing job to get what he's gotten out of that group. Colorado's start really shocked me, but they've turned it around a little bit. But the biggest positive surprise is Real Salt Lake and Austin. The biggest negative is New England, but I'm not freaking out yet. Kansas City is probably the biggest surprise from a negative perspective, just because I knew they'd suffer with Ilie gone when they didn't re-sign him and he went to LAFC. I knew that would be a problem. I didn't think it'd be this kind of a problem. They look completely incomplete at the moment, and losing 5 games out of 7 and losing the way they've been losing and not getting the production out of Johnny Russell and Daniel Shallowy that they did last year. And then the Alan Polito injury, we knew that would be a problem. We didn't know it'd be this big of a problem. I don't expect to see a Peter Vermes team where they are and playing the way they are. They don't look like they're going to solve it anytime soon.
So I'm going to change course on you yet again, and
Good.
just get your view on something that I don't know if anyone's really actually paying attention to. And have you paid attention at all to MLS Next Pro?
Yeah, I have. It's different because Atlanta United 2 will be there. So I wanted to get a sense of what that league is going to look like, what the presentation is going to look like. I think when you compare it to what we've seen with the MLS second teams in USL Championship or League One previously, it feels younger. It feels like they've gone more towards the academy side with that rather than some of the veterans that we've seen with some of these teams over time. I think that evolution's been happening in general. I mean, I can speak from Atlanta's perspective. They've went much younger as their time in USL Championship has went on. This might be the youngest group they've ever had once we get to the end of the season with all the kids who have played. And I get it. I mean, that's the point for these teams. It is a second team. It is about getting guys ready to join the first team, getting them those minutes. I do wonder where MLS Next Pro settles in regards to independent teams. That's the part that I'm waiting to see. If it is all second teams, I think it'll end up finding a good level. I think it will be a productive thing for all the clubs involved. But you don't get the tests that right now Atlanta United 2 gets against the Detroit, against the Tampa Bay, against really good teams that are just difficult to deal with. You don't get that if you're playing people that are roughly your age and younger. So how does it really help the development if you don't get that? Or are you going to have more independent teams like we have the Rochester, New York FC team, the former Rhinos? Do you need more of them in there to give you that difference of the kinds of opponents? It's something that MLS is going to have to sort out. USL wanted to go in a completely independent direction, and I don't have anything against it. I totally understand it. The evolution of the relationship is fascinating, and maybe one day we'll get a 30 for 30 on it or something. But it was supposed to be NASL who was going to be that partner with MLS and have second teams in their league. And then the Cosmos came in and they didn't want any part of that. So it opened the door for USL, who had kind of quietly regrouped after the NASL breakaway deal and all the fighting, and USL took full advantage of it, and it was hugely beneficial for them. I think to say that it wasn't to have these teams in when you go back to when the decision was made, I think it was hugely beneficial.
I don't think they get sanctioning at some points.
Probably not. Probably not. I don't think they get some of the expansion teams if they don't have that. And I think having that relationship served them really well. Had they outgrown it? Yeah, you could absolutely argue that. I think the growth of USL League One is one of the biggest storylines in American soccer that doesn't get enough coverage. Having what you guys see all the time in Chattanooga, having what we see down in Statesboro with Tormenta and Greenville and Omaha, and adding more teams at that level, that's where the growth in the country is going to be. Because we've got most of the major cities with teams now, either at MLS or USL Championship, and the kids growing up have those heroes to aspire to. But now you're getting into a level of market that has previously been like NPSL or USL League 2 or UPSL, summer league team or, kind of a semi-pro deal where you don't have the resources that are being put in by the Red Wolves, by Tormenta, by Triumph. It just changes everything when now you're going to have kids who grow up in your footprint in South Georgia, in South Carolina, who have every possibility to become professional soccer players. And MLS Next Pro is great for the MLS teams. Like, you need the second team. I think the teams that have used the clubs that have used the second team well have truly benefited in their player development. I've watched it with Atlanta United. You don't beat NYC in the second leg in 2018 if you don't put Miles Robinson with Atlanta United 2 playing 10, 15 games late in the season. And when Jeff Lorenowitz gets hurt, Miles can walk right in and play that game because he had 4 or 5 MLS games under his belt at that point. You don't win the game against Philadelphia in 2019 if you can't have Mikey Ambrose fresh playing with Atlanta United 2 to be able to play him at left back to do the tactics that you wanted in that game. It's critical. The young guys coming through are just so much more seasoned, but that's different than an independent team in USL. It's a completely different mindset. And for them to not be in the same place, I hate it personally because I like to have the young players play the veterans. I think it helps their development, but I understand it from the USL perspective that, it's a harder sell to have a second team coming to town or to ask your fans to watch a game against the second team. And it's a small crowd. It feels like a different world. So I really want to see where it goes. I think MLS Next Pro is going to be very useful over time, but it's first year and it was kind of put together, I think, pretty quickly as the relationship with USL changed. So I'm going to give it some time, but there's been some good performances. I've seen some really good goals. I've seen some good play. Romeo Beckham might be the star of MLS Next Pro right now. Romeo Beckham's leading the league in assists down in Miami.
Which is amazing because when he played versus us, it was not that. So,
and that's some of the difference, like maybe for him where he might have needed more time to get games under his belt, going up against a Red Wolves team that is a bunch of veterans and has a different mindset, probably a big struggle for him last year. But going up against teams that are very similar to his, he's probably a lot more comfortable, and that can help his development if you continue to move from there. You can't let great stats against lesser competition. I mean, that's fair to say. You can't let that cloud you and say, oh, he's great, he's ready to go now. No, he's doing well against peers. Can he do well moving up? And I really hope that there is that in-between relationship. And look, it might be down to clubs doing it themselves with, a Miami figuring out, okay, where can we loan him to? Because he's good for our MLS Next Pro. He's doing well. I got to challenge him more. Do I need to loan him to Chattanooga? Do I need to loan him to Greenville so he gets games there at that level and gets tested? I don't know. I hope those relationships form because I'd hate to see animosity and friction and it hurting player development.
Yeah. So Adam has spent this whole time stifling yawns as we talk to MLS because he is full on Euro snob.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I wanted to have you do your elevator pitch. Sell Adam on watching MLS. What are the things he needs to know when he's tuning in for an MLS game?
Man, what I would tell you is watch all kinds of leagues. First off, it's not even purely an MLS thing. Over the past few years, I've really gotten to where I watch more MLS than anything else. First off, and part of it's my job, obviously, but second, you get more, I think, surprising, unexpected games in MLS, and from a good thing, not unexpected because the team played bad, unexpected because of parity, because and we go through the table and you're like, there's not really many easy games anymore. You don't have this big separation. The level of play is really good and everybody's risen up to it. But I think with me, I'm not hung up on watching just the Premier League, or if you're a La Liga or Serie A or Bundesliga person, I like watching different coaches, how they prepare their teams. I like watching different tactics. I like then knowing that, okay, I watch Argentina a good bit, for example, and knowing we bring Thiago Almada into Atlanta, kind of know his personality on the field. I kind of know how he plays and what that's going to look like coming to Atlanta and MLS. MLS, I think now you're getting to a point where you're getting good atmospheres. You're getting teams that have different styles. Like there are still a few kind of vanilla teams, but Philadelphia, the Red Bulls, that press, you're in for it with that. You're in for a different kind of a game. You look at an Atlanta, you look at a Charlotte teams with kind of Latin managers that have a little bit of that Guardiola influence, and you see them wanting to do the positional play and create space and create overloads. You see teams that are direct. You see teams that have talented Polish national team players, talented Uruguayan national team players, talented African national team players. You're getting, I think, one of the most unique melting pots in a league right now in MLS, because you generally get the same types of international players in a lot of other leagues. Here, you're getting a little bit of everybody, and it's fascinating. And how the things blend together. It just, for me, I never can easily predict what I'm going to get each weekend in MLS.
So I will say, my son and I tuned into a Minnesota-Austin game.
Oh,
And
that's not a good one.
well, it's just because my son was trying to avoid going to bed. He's 8 years old.
Can't blame him for that.
Yeah, and I was like, well, who are we going to root for, buddy? And he goes, well, which was the away team? Because we only watch, other than Arsenal games, we're only watching when the Rebels are away, so we need to root for the away team. And I was like, you really don't want to root for Minnesota, man. And just tried to help him. But we watched the
first. A good one. I was so beat. I'm glad I missed it.
This is where my struggle is. Like, like for me, if you look at my teams, you can always tell like where in the country at the time I was living, because I moved around the country a lot. And I have a weird story on how I became an Arsenal fan. My brother basically used his daughter to force me to do it. He said if I didn't pick them, she would hate to not come to meals at our house. So, but like other than that, I've never been able to pick a team that's like not where I'm living. Like I've never started following a team, and so like I'm kind of like, we're stuck in this middle zone. Like, there's Atlanta down there, there's Nashville there. My brother and mom live in Charlotte, so it's like if I'm gonna pick one, I need to pick a team.
What do you like about? Okay, if Arsenal is your team, is Arsenal who you watch the most outside of the Red Wolves, obviously?
Yes, outside the Red Wolves.
Okay. What is it you like about Arsenal?
So if I had to be honest, I still miss the beautiful game that Ars Wenger brought to the table. That's.
So you want a passing team? You want a technical team? You don't
technically sound passing. They're not. Basically, I don't want Xhaka on my team. They're not making dumb decisions that cost you games. They're like that type of player doesn't get on the field. It's going to be
Arteta gets back to where you want it to be. I think he can, but I don't know if he gets there yet.
I have a feeling we have an owner that's going to keep that from being a thing. But
I like Arteta. I like his background. I liked him as a player. I like his work with Pep. I think he can be a good coach, but yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for, a guy that's going to have a pass first mentality. I do not. You cannot get me to watch a defensive kick it over the top and hope for like that whole.
Right. So I'll tell you some teams not to watch. You don't watch Philadelphia. Don't watch the Red Bulls. Don't watch. Those are really the main two, because now they go fully like Red Bull, RB Leipzig, Gegen pressing, but like the original variant of it, not what Jurgen Klopp's doing now, where it's like they can play with the ball and without it. It's very like, we don't want the ball. It's not my kind of style either. Nashville's fairly defensive. I don't know if they're going to be your cup of tea based off of what it sounds like you like. I like Gary Smith as a coach. I think he does a good job with that kind of a team. Teams are very well organized, but they're going to be defense first. Atlanta is a team kind of like what you would like. I think Charlotte will be I don't think they're quite there yet because of the talent level with some of the options they have. Like, they don't really have any wingers right now, so it's a little limiting in what they can do to play tactically. But I think they will be that kind of a team that you will enjoy. LAFC is a team you would enjoy. I mean, attack minded. You've got a ton of attackers there. They're kind of, maybe a little too risky at times. San Jose is pure chaos. If you want the chaos element in this, especially like when you get home from a Red Wolves game and there's a game on ESPN Plus with San Jose on it at 10:30, tune into that, because they want the ball. They generally have a lot of possession, but they press like maniacs when they don't have it, and they play very man-to-man all over the field, which can be wildly entertaining, and they can give up a ton of goals doing it too. They're not successful at it, but they are an entertaining watch if you're just looking for a neutral game. Like, I need chaos tonight. San Jose can be your team for that. MLS After Dark is definitely a thing.
There you go.
But yeah, Atlanta and Charlotte are two teams in your footprint that you can pay attention to, and I think you'll enjoy their style of play. I mean, these are two teams that want the ball. These are two teams that are going to prioritize. I think Charlotte will. Atlanta does. Talented attacking players. To the point that, the question for some Atlanta United fans is, how do you make it fit with the talented attacking players you have? Are you going to be too attack-minded? And for me, you can never be too attack-minded. I'm going to take that every single time. But you have a lot of very strong individual players who will blow your mind with their skill. They try to combine. They try to create overloads, and they're very interchangeable positionally. There's a lot to compare to kind of the old school Arsene Wenger days at Arsenal. I mean, Gonzalo Pineda's talked about how he's been influenced by Pep Guardiola, and, that's not a direct line, but there's similarities there. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's teams for you to avoid, and like Minnesota for me is pretty generic. Austin, I think, is trying to get to something interesting, but they're still really young. Atlanta, LAFC, Charlotte will be a team for you to pay attention to. You've got a few to work with, and but San Jose, just from a pure entertainment spectacle, that's one for you to watch.
Okay, I'll make a point before now, and the next time I talk with you, I will catch a San Jose game to see if I can confirm that I enjoyed the chaos.
Yeah, you got San Jose and Nashville this weekend, but it's not after dark is the problem. So their powers are not quite the same when they play in the daytime. I don't know why. It's like Gremlins, I guess. But San Jose, just to give you a sense of their score lines this year, they lost 3-1, they tied 3-3, they lost 2-0, they lost 1-0, they drew 2-2, and they lost 4-3. Chaos.
Yeah, that's a lot of goals.
Yeah, a lot of goals for, but a lot of goals against. It is unmitigated chaos.
Between me and Wolfman Jeff, Adam's pretty used to chaos by now.
Word.
So
nothing wrong with that at all. That's when it's not your league and your team. Before it gets to that point, find teams, like check in on different teams, try to sample, and you'll find somebody that kind of grabs your attention. In Argentina, for me, it was a club Defensa y Justicia, Defense and Justice. I had no idea why they're called that. Nobody seems to know. But they play a style that I enjoy. They had a young coach who was really interesting. They had a lot of young guys on loan from some of the bigger clubs. They were really competitive for a small club. They won the Copa Sudamericana, like the Europa League in South America a couple years ago with Hernan Crespo, the former Argentine great, as their manager. They kind of grabbed me with, I didn't go in like trying to pick them. I didn't know anything about them, and they kind of grabbed me, and that's the team that I look for the most out of Argentina. So you don't have to pick somebody straight away. Watch some teams, watch some players that you might know of or have heard about, and see who grabs your attention.
There we go.
So
Well,
last
Jason,
question. In a given week, how much soccer do you watch?
Oh, I don't know if I should answer this because it's bad. It's a lot. There's usually soccer on in front of me if I'm like a consuming it, like if I'm prepping for a game, for example, if it's a team that we're about to play, if it's Defensa, or if it's a big game that I'm wrapped up in, I'm watching it and living and dying with it. Outside of that, like there's games like right now, I have a Copa Libertadores game on in front of me, and I'm watching it a little bit. It's on. There's a couple players I know. It's pretty constant, and that's good and bad. It's really good when we have soccer down here and have our shows, because there's plenty to talk about at all times. But yeah, it's a lot of soccer at all times.
And that's why I want to be Jason Longshore when I grow up.
If I could just keep making more money at doing this, I'll be in good shape. One day, I'm getting there. I'm working on it. But nah, it's a blast. I love working in the game, and I love having the opportunity to watch a team like Colón de Santa Fe and talk about this player that is just he's like a backyard kind of a player. His name is Pulga Rodriguez, and he's 35, and he hasn't played any of the big teams in Argentina, but he scores incredible goals. He's an incredible passer. He just is so different, and being able to like see him and get to know his style and get to talk about him and share that with people. And then somebody, watches Colón next time and is like, wow, Pulga's amazing. That kind of stuff makes my day, because that's how I was when I got into the game. It was, oh, I love this. I love this. I love this. And I didn't have that outlet for it. So to be able to be that outlet for some people, it's amazing. I'm very lucky to get to do what I do.
Well, we really appreciate the time, and you've definitely made our day.
Yep,
so we look forward to catching up with you again later in the season, and hope you have a great evening.
Yeah, we're going to be up in Chattanooga here soon, so I'm looking forward to seeing a Red Wolves game and maybe seeing you guys in person.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody.
So the takeaway I had from that was, while you were interviewing him, he was really watching another game. So you guys were the background noise, and he was focusing on a game. That's what I took, really. No, he's a good. You know what? You might as well just keep that on the whole time. Without Adam here, there's no buffer. There's no buffer against awkward.
So we, of course, don't want to keep everyone here all night, but we've got a game this Saturday at CHI Memorial Stadium that we need to break down. So we have a early top of the table clash. Both Chattanooga Red Wolves and Richmond tied with, well, now I can't remember who the other third team is that also has 4 points. But 3 teams at the top of the table with 4 points, and we are taking on Richmond. Jeff, did you do your homework?
No. It's Fuego is the other team.
Central Valley Fuego, yes.
That has 4 points. And I believe it was Fuego. No, it was the hailstorm that is Richmond had drawn against. Richmond's first game was, it may be very well they're going to be talking about their first game for the rest of the year, because it was a 4-0 stomping. It was against FC Tucson, and it was again, both teams are very physical. It was not pretty, and it got to the point where FC Tucson was so frustrated they ended up with a red card, and which is ironic, because even though Richmond got 4 goals in the match, they didn't get any more goals when they went down to 10 men. So that didn't benefit them too much, but they already had got it. The fact that Terzaghi was the first one to score should shock no one, but also coming in from Tormenta, Neil Vinyals had gotten a brace for this, and then Bentley had finished it up with another goal. So they, when you look at Richmond, not a lot of possession. I think they had 35% possession in that game. Not a lot of shots, but the shots they did, they have a higher ratio of shots actually on target, but they're not making as much. So it's not the constant pressure barrage, but it's more sit back, wait, and maybe take you out while they can. Their second game I think they expected it to be similar, but they were surprised to find quite the struggle with Ayman Zaid's side coming out. And again, both of their games so far have been at City Stadium in Richmond. It ended up with a 1-1 draw. First half, actually, Hailstorm had scored. And I know we were talking about the amazing goals that we had with our last game, but also shout out to Ethan Vanacore Decker, who had just a beautiful goal against Richmond. And I know Ayman Zaid was very adamant that people pay attention to that as well. But they were able to.
I did say with all due respect.
Yes, with all due respect, then you can just say whatever you want. Terzaghi then came with the equalizer. Again, another game where the possession was a little more even. I think it was about 50%, but still not a lot of pressure. They're quite comfortable with you having the ball, and they're going to get their chance at it. They only had 10 shots on goal, which seems a bit, but I mean, when you see that Northern Colorado had almost 20 shots. But their shots on target are much more even at 5-7. So they're not just taking every shot once the ball gets in front of them. So they're a little more strategic, but they're going to hunker down. And any game against Richmond I think, is going to be a physical game.
So we are the first road game. They are going to have to, the following Wednesday, get back home, and we'll be taking on Carolina Dynamo in the third round of the U.S. Open Cup. And so we've got a lot. Based on the first half that we had in North Carolina, I think I would be very worried about this game with how the Red Wolves were playing. But with what they did in the second half, being able to come home, all the players that they've been waiting on are in town. I think we need to mention Andres Hernandez, the recently signed player, got in for a few minutes, got what had to be the fastest yellow card in League One history. I think he was on the field for not even a full minute and was getting a yellow card for a tackle on one of the North Carolina players. You're going to see some of those guys, Andres Hernandez, Jorge Pais, now that we've got Juan Galindrez back in camp, some of those guys are going to start getting to play more. They're going to probably be phased in slowly. So I think you're going to see a lot of the similar players that we've been seeing the last 3 games with the Red Wolves. Jeff, I wanted to throw a lineup at you. Tell me what you think.
Yeah,
I'm saying maybe we go 4-4-2. I appreciate Brian Bennett and the effort that he puts in and everything that he brings to the game. But I'm just wondering, as we come into this team that's wanting to sit back, maybe we mix it up a little. We've got Rafa and Ray as my forwards. Pedro Hernandez, I think, has played really well in the midfield, and we're waiting for some of those guys. The real wild card for me is whether Jimmy Villalobos is going to be cleared to play or if he still needs to be under observation a little bit more. We've got pretty much the same back line. So, Jeff, tell me what you think about 4-4-2. If you think it's going to be the 4-3-3, we could probably quibble a little bit with some of these guys, but what do you think about how the Red Wolves are going to attack this game?
Before we go any further, I do want to mention I was a little concerned that if Jimmy Villalobos had gotten a concussion, it's after the fact, but maybe he should have been pulled out earlier. But it's hard to in the middle of game time. Again, I'm still upset about the as Dean Martin would call a kick to the head, because that was a kick to the head. So I do think that he is the one. He is the main one there that. If he's not available, it might change things up a bit. We've got some more options coming in. Wally has been in town a little bit longer. It's possible, but I don't really see him starting at this match. I like this lineup quite a bit, and I do hope that Jimmy is available because I think he is bringing in, between Espana, Jimmy, and Jose, they're bringing in Jose Carrera Garcia. They're bringing in a stability with some of our newer players, and if you look at this, a lot of them are standard players, with the exception of a right and left back, and then you've got Pedro up there, because you want to vote for Pedro. I get that, but it's I could see the 4-4-2, especially as you're talking about, to see maybe just for the first half, and Coach Jimmy may bring in a substitute, probably swap out Pedro and bring in an actual central striker, whether it's, I don't think it'll be Tanky. It could be Brian, but it could be Teixeira as well. I have a feeling he's got plans to showcase Teixeira. The other change I expect to see is Tor in the goal. Part of this because I've been seeing him in marketing for this match, and I think he played a very good first game. I was kind of surprised he didn't play the last game there, but we have two very good keepers, and being a loan, we're going to have to play him, and so I suspect we're going to be seeing Tor in the goal.
That would not shock me at all. And based on what he did in the first game against Madison, I don't think he necessarily needed to be relegated to the bench. But again, Carlos did a very good job. It's a good problem to have two goalkeepers who have come in early this season and played two really solid games and done a good job in goal. So wouldn't shock me at all if you see Tor Saunders swap in, and look forward to seeing what he brings in goal. If he does a little more communicating, felt like he was kind of quiet in the Madison game. We got really used to Tim Trilk and Alex Mangels both constantly talking, communicating with his back line. And I think it's a really important thing in a keeper. So hopefully we'll see more of that. To me, the key of the game for the Red Wolves is going to be finding a way to isolate Emiliano Terzaghi, central striker for them. He does a lot. If you can keep him from being able to link up with the midfielders, so it comes down to Carrera Garcia, Josue Espana, any of these guys that are playing in the midfield, if they can keep those passing lanes closed and keep Terzaghi isolated, playing against Capizzucci and Luna, I think the Red Wolves have a really good chance to control this game, get 2 or 3 goals against the Richmond defense, and come away with a win.
I think Terzaghi, and as well as their keeper Akira Fitzgerald, are probably 2 very high on the list of USL League players that I'm shocked they're still in USL League One. They have shown their prowess, and congratulations to Richmond for keeping them. But I fully expected them to have moved up to a higher league. So they usually don't stay that long. I think this is their 4th year with Richmond.
I know that it is for Fitzgerald. Old Fitzy, looking forward to him being back in town. We have a pretty good relationship. Terzaghi was one that they brought in their second season, so this is his third year.
But that's not common in USL League One. It's usually 2 and out.
Yeah, you don't see it a lot. And he is a player that is older. He's towards his mid-30s, so he may have decided kind of this is a place that he loves and wants to settle down a little more, looking towards maybe his future coaching career, things like that. That may explain it. But the fact is he's very dangerous, and it's going to be a battle. The Red Wolves back line had better be ready, but we've seen him contained by the Red Wolves defense before. So I'm hoping that that's what we're going to see on Saturday.
I don't want to be too sour, but that's one of the key players that have been able to keep them in check was Jason Ramos. And again, he's doing some great feats of strength. I think Capizzucci is doing fantastic. And but it's going to be a challenge for them, and this will also be an opportunity for them. If they could shut them down, I think if we can contain them in the first half and then turn it up in the second half, I think we've got it. And the fact we're at home, we are a quiet, shy place, and we never express, just like our coach, we never express ourselves. So we always make it uncomfortable for visiting teams to come, and we want to put the pressure on, and they're up for it. But the only thing I worry about with this game is them being so physical. I just hope there aren't a lot of injuries.
Well, they tend to be more physical with the turf than they are with anyone else. So hopefully we get a ref that understands how they play and doesn't go eating out of their hand as they flop to the ground. Hopefully everything is nice and level as they're getting off the bus. Because I know once they get in Chattanooga, they have lots of inner ear things and balance issues.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll be ready to play. But
it must be because we're so close to Lookout Mountain. We're here in the Appalachians, and that was what it must be. That's why they're losing their balance a bit there.
So that is a 7:30 kickoff at CHI Memorial.
Yes.
Unless there is a torrential downpour in the 3:00 hour, chances are pretty good that there is still going to be tailgating going on. Bring your rain boots and come hang out and have a bratwurst or a burger and check out Tailgate Row. Head on into the game. Scream your heads off. Jeff, we're already 10 minutes past 8:00.
Yeah.
So let's give ourselves a super fast Biggles Wade report.
Oh, and I lost. Hold on. I got to share my music again. Sorry about that, bro. It got lost. I had this whole file for the music. All right, you just have to go without it, man.
Okay. Biggles Wade report. Congrats to Ryan Inskip and manager Dave Northfield of Biggles Wade FC. 250 matches with Biggles Wade FC. Way to go, guys. Turning away from England a little is we've got Canadian Premier League starting. So Canadian Premier League kicked off last weekend. Jeff, your Halifax Wanderers.
Yes.
Jeff has a connection with them, family connections in the area. They had a 1-0 victory, and my Hamilton Forge, so they became my team because they're sponsored by Tim Hortons, of course. They unfortunately suffered a defeat in the first game of the season. Good luck to the Canadian Premier League as they get their season underway. Also around the world, our friend Cito Sayon's got a few more weeks here before things start in Iceland, but his team last year won promotion. They're in that top level, so hope everything goes well for Cito. And that is your Biggles Wade report.
All right. So that wasn't the regular music. Sorry about that. What we did is we wanted to kind of convey the sense of a 90s infomercial.
That's why Adam went to the concert. He's looking for some very martial British music that he was going to record on his phone to be able to have next week. So if you're at the stadium and you see Wolfman Jeff, or you see me, or you see Adam, stop by and tell us, hey, let us know you're a Soccer Chat super fan. And we're excited about the game, and we look forward to seeing y'all out there. Bye.
So my mom is now a season ticket holder. The Granny Wolf is ready to pounce upon all comers.
Is that what's on our lanyard?
Yeah, that's actually, and you couldn't even have any pictures on it because it was all just text just going all around.